Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television, a few other things here and there. And joining us, of course, is the High Lord of all other things here and there. It's the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
The High Lord of all things here and there? Wow, I like that. That's definitely a new one. Wow.
And hey, listen, guys, like normally, as you know, normally Thursdays is No Pants Thursdays. We got me, Chris, and Aaron. And normally on Fridays lately, we've been having me, Robert, and Aaron here in studio. But I got things kind of torn up right now as a result of shooting the documentary. And so, of course, we didn't have Chris or Aaron on yesterday, and Rob is doing it remotely today. But that's all right. We're still going to have a lot of fun. Hey, and you know what? Listen, I wanted to bring something up here, Rob. Forgive me for this for a second. But mentioning the documentary that I'm shooting right now. You know, I realized yesterday that I had not talked about this yet, and I want to just mention this quickly. So, you know, another friend of ours asked me yesterday, he said, so are you crowdfunding the documentary, like doing a Kickstarter or anything like that? And by the way, things like Kickstarter and crowdfunding, that's amazing for creatives. I mean, that's what got, you know, John Schnepp's The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened made, and what a great project that turned out to be, and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I'm not using crowdfunding. And I've had some of the viewers ask me too, it's like, why don't you have a Kickstarter for this thing, blah, 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 blah. And I said this, Rob, I said, the reason I'm not doing with Kickstarter, because that stuff is great. I mean, it's wonderful there for creatives. But I said, doing Kickstarter stuff like that is asking fans to help fund a project. And that's great. But my philosophy right now has kind of been, our viewers are already helping fund this project, because this project is going to be a project of my company, Carson Drive Media, which does, you know, the John Campea Show and all that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what, with our incredible Patreon supporters, and by the way, again, thank you to everybody who's a Patreon supporter. Why don't you become a Patreon supporter? Anyway, from our Patreon supporters, the people who send in questions, and just the people who view every day, I told them, I said, I feel like that is our viewership contributing to what we do. And to me, the documentary is one of the things that we're doing. And I already kind of see it, that our viewers are supporting it. And so I just wanted to say, because I just realized when my friend was asking me that yesterday, that I hadn't taken a moment to say thank you to all of you guys who day in and day out, whether you're Patreon supporters or you're just here watching the show, or you're one of the people who sends in questions on the show using the tip links and all that kind of stuff on a regular basis. I just wanted to say thank you again, wholeheartedly, for not just your support of the channel, because you guys are the reasons we're able to do this every single day, but also because of your support, we're able to do a project like this that I'm hoping will be a real contribution to the film fan community. Because, of course, the documentary we're doing is on movie trailers, and I'm very excited about it, and we're well into the production of it. But I just wanted to say to all of you guys, a deep, heartfelt thank you. Not just for the day in, day out, making sure we can do this show that we do, but thank you for also supporting us so we can do a project like this that I'm hoping will contribute to the film fan community and make it a more fun place to be. So seriously, guys, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you very, very much for all that. Okay, guys. With that down, we've got a few things to talk about here today. We got a couple of interesting things. We're going to talk about the projections for Quiet Place, which is looking really good. I'm going to give my review of The Invisible Man that's out right now. Guess what? Accountant 2 ain't dead yet. It may still be a movie, or it might be a TV show. We'll talk about that. Nathan Fillion talks about his loyalty to James Gunn. AMC Theaters has closed its first theaters in response to the coronavirus. We'll talk about that and a few things more. But before we get to all that stuff, let's go right off the top with this. Rob, one of the great traditions of Pixar movies has been for a long time the fact that quite often, if not almost always, we get one of their great world-class Pixar short films in front of it, whether, you know, it's one of the greatest of all time, Chess in the Park, or any of the other ones they've done. So many memorable, incredible short films that they've done. Well, Onward is coming out, And Onward is going to be no exception. Onward is going to have a short film, an animated short film play in front of her, Rob, but it's not going to be a Pixar short film. It's going to be a Simpsons short film. Simpsons, what's this going to be called? A play date or on a play date with Destiny. And it's gonna highlight the baby. It's gonna highlight Maggie. I think it's gonna be a key figure, or if not the central figure in it. And they're doing that. Now, of course, when I first saw this, I thought, wait, what the hell? But of course, Disney now owns The Simpsons. So it shouldn't really strike me as being all that surprising. So, Rob, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. On the one hand, I feel kind of bummed out because I love the Pixar shorts. And their creativity bow was one of the more recent ones, which was just insanely good. But at the same time, seeing them leverage something like Simpsons is also kind of cool and interesting to see. At least it's still continuing the tradition of a short film before the Pixar feature. So I'm a little bit torn on this. Rob, you just heard about this. How are you feeling about Pixar not doing one of their own shorts, but rather a Simpsons short before Onward?
Well, I remember the first time I saw The Simpsons. I mean, it debuted on the Tracy Ullman show, but there was a theatrical short, and I was asking you, I don't remember what movie it played in front of, but I saw those before. I saw that short before I saw the Tracy Ullman stuff, and I think it's kind of neat that they bring it back. I mean, obviously Simpsons is Fox, and Simpsons is it's already on Disney Plus, right? Or is it going to be on Disney Plus?
Yeah, it either is going to be or already is, one of the two.
I think it's kind of neat. I mean, it's synergy between Disney and its acquisition of Fox, and I think what really excites me is that I'll bet the short's pretty great. You know, if for them to put a Simpsons short on in front of a Pixar movie, it has to be a pretty good short. And I'm looking forward to it. I think that's great. I mean, I'm still waiting for the Simpsons sequel series where everybody gets to grow up and Marge and Homer are like middle-aged and
well, they're already middle-aged.
Where that's going to go, but even older. You know, maybe they're grandparents, and you get to see what is Bart Simpson like as an adult. Are they going to do that show?
I don't know that I ever want them to do that. I think the Simpsons are that's one of the big advantages of animation is that your characters never have to grow up.
I know.
Anyway, guys, the question is for you. How are you feeling about the idea of a Simpsons short playing in front of Onward? I'm a little bit torn about it. My first reaction was, no, I want a Pixar short. But then I think about it, it's like, but that actually could be pretty cool. So I'm still not sure how I feel about it. How do you guys feel about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, guys, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, you see, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with them by going 24/7 anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. Hit submit. It's absolutely free. And then once you do, maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here as a main topic on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Tommy Doyle, who writes, John, did you end up seeing The Invisible Man? It has gotten rave reviews throughout the week since the embargo lifted. I am overly excited for this movie, and I'll love to hear your thoughts. Thanks. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Tommy. And yes, despite the fact that I had to skip out on a press screening earlier in the week, Ann and I did go out to see The Invisible Man last night. Now, I was not giving this movie much consideration prior to the trailers coming out because it's like, really? You're going back to The Invisible Man? Really? Now, the addition of Elizabeth Moss, that's intriguing because she's fantastic. So that was interesting, but really it didn't have a lot of my attention. Then the first trailer came out. Boom. Trailer, I thought the trailer was fantastic. I thought the trailer was absolutely fantastic. I thought maybe it gave away a little bit too much, but other than that, it gripped me right away. It got me pumped for the movie, and I wanted to go see it. Then, of course, the review embargo lifted. As of yesterday, I'm not quite sure where it's at today, Rob, but as of yesterday, it had a 91%. So in I go last night to go see it, and I'll tell you what, it did not disappoint. It does not disappoint. I thought this was a really great movie. And were it not, now we're still early, but were it not for The Gentleman, I would say that The Invisible Man was my current frontrunner as Best Picture of 2020, I still give that slot to The Gentleman right now. But this is a really great little horror film. And despite the fact that you may be thinking the way I was thinking was, what? Listen, we get it. A dude you can't see. Ooh, that's going to get tired. Like, that's going to wear out pretty quick. But it doesn't. They find ways to keep it freaky and keep you on your toes and keep the tension high. And listen, you're going to have a movie like this. You need to have a good number of OMG moments, Rob. You know what I'm talking about. Like, I was like, oh, what just happened? You know, sort of thing. They do such a good job with that in this film. Like, there are like 4 or 5 moments in this film, like Ann and I both like look at each other like, oh my God, what just happened? And listen, I'll say this too. I have been very vocally critical, despite the fact that I love the trailers. One of the things that I've been saying, Rob, was that the trailers give too much away. I mean, they almost give everything away. And I'll say this, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Now, yes, in the trailer, you get a sense of what the overall story is going to be and kind of what happens a little bit, but most trailers should do that to a degree. A lot of the biggest twists, turns, surprises to me were absolutely kept out of the trailer. The trailers.
That's good to know.
Oh, dude, listen, and let me tell you what else. Elizabeth Moss, we all know she's great. She's great. I mean, she's really great in this. Because, you know from the trailer, she starts to question her own sanity. And the way she plays that in this is terrific. And I'll tell you what, this isn't really spoiling anything because they give you glimpses of this in the trailer. But when somebody is struggling with the Invisible Man, Ann and I are watching, like, how are they making this look so good? Like, it just looks absolutely incredible. And Rob, I kept having to remind myself, they made this movie for $7 million. They made this movie for $7 million. And again, of course, it's a Blumhouse production, who, of course, Jason Blum ruffles through his couch, pulls out some change and says, here, go make a horror movie with this. And then they make $40 million out of it, right? I'm just telling you, it was exciting. It was thrilling. There's a couple of nice little twists and turns throughout the way. The performances are top notch. There are 1 or 2 moments in the film that I went, wait a minute, logically that didn't make a lot of sense. There were 1 or 2 moments of those, but not as many as you might think for a movie called The Invisible Man. And I just thought, and you know what? A lot of times in these movies, Rob, I'll be like, it would be ballsy if, well, no, I better not say that. I'm gonna keep that to myself. All I'm gonna say is they keep going. And you know what? I forget the kid's name. I think her name is Stormy or Storm Daniels, the young girl from Wrinkle in Time, the horrible Wrinkle in Time movie. But I really like her, and she's in this as well, which is great because I don't remember seeing her in the trailer. She's wonderful in this as well. Listen. This is not going to be a top 5 film of the year by the time the end of the year comes around, but this is a fun, enjoyable, tense, great little horror thriller kind of a movie that was made for a really small amount of money, and it over delivers on the enjoyment. So again, like most movies, it's not going to be for everybody, Rob. No movie is, but I'll tell you what, I had a hell of a good time.
Well, I'm glad to hear this because I liked Lee Whannell's last film, Upgrade. I thought was terrific.
Yeah.
And what I really like though is what this signifies in terms of theatrically. I mean, Blumhouse has been killing it with they had that $5 million. I mean, they've obviously upped their budgets a little bit, but let's just say under 10. And the fact that they're allowing filmmakers to create innovative films on a budget with great actors that deliver the goods, and they get released theatrically with a theatrical marketing campaign behind them, and they turn out to be successful. I mean, to me, I don't understand why every studio doesn't have a genre division. I mean, they, over at Sony, they had Sam Raimi's Ghost House, but no one has been as successful with this formula as Jason Blum. And I'm like, why don't more people do it? This is what Hollywood should be doing more of. This is what gets butts into seats. It gets people coming into the movie theaters, and you're not breaking the bank every time you go out to make a movie. I think it's great. I hope this movie makes $150 million.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it's going to go that high or anything like that, but it's going to be obviously profitable. But it's just nice to see filmmakers with a passion for film don't have to break the bank to do it and still deliver some top-notch entertainment. And again, from Elizabeth Moss and Storm Reed, that's the kid's name, Storm Reed. I almost said Stormy Daniels. That's a totally different kind of movie star. Storm Reed, not to be confused with Stormy Daniels. Storm Reed is great, but again, I just a thoroughly good time. Again, not an Oscar-winning film, but you walk into a movie like this just for some really nice little entertainment, and I had a good time at it. Question here is, guys, have many of you, it's in theaters right now, have many of you guys had a chance to go and see Invisible Man yet? If so, what did you guys think of it? If not, where's your anticipation level right now? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Robert Wright, who writes, Deadline is saying that A Quiet Place 2 is projected to open around $60 million, which would be awesome for a smaller budget film like this. Do you guys think it will hit that number, or do you see it potentially grossing more than that on its opening weekend? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, one of the films might be actually my number 1 anticipated film of the year. Might actually be A Quiet Place 2, because I felt like A Quiet Place was the best film of 2017. Or was it 18? I can't remember now. I'm losing track. But I thought it was the best film of the year it came out. I was fascinated by what John Krasinski was able to do without dialogue for much of the film, what he was able to do with atmosphere and tension. And there was emotion and heart and thrills and scares, and I just love that movie to no end. The marketing for this film is looking pretty fantastic so far. So good that they're saying this film might even open bigger than the previous film. Here's what we get out of Variety, who writes, the sequel, A Quiet Place Part 2, is on track to earn $55 million during its opening. By the way, other places like Deadline and others are reporting $60 million plus, but some are going as conservative as $50 million. During opening weekend, according to early estimates, if the horror film is able to capture the same enthusiasm as the original, those projections could increase over the next 3 weeks as Paramount ramps up marketing efforts. The first movie became a critical and commercial hit, shattering expectations with its $50 million debut in April of 2018. So, Rob, we are left here with a motion picture that I completely adored in the first one. The sequel's been coming out, but I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I've been looking forward to this one coming out, I have not had the same kind of optimism that it would open as big. Because even though the first one's brilliant, the first one still feels to me like it's looked at as this spunky little film, and it still feels to me like a smaller project. And we've seen a lot of good movies have a sequel open to lower money. And I've kind of been anticipating that it would a little bit. So seeing these projections to me is really impressive. And again, they made this for an incredibly small budget, just like they did on the first one. If they can communicate all that and be financially successful. Rob, you're always saying you love seeing movies be successful, especially when they're good movies. Yep. I loved the first Quiet Place. If this one can match it, I would love to see it succeed on that level. And it makes me feel good because box office tells us what the audience is excited about. A lot of people say to us a lot of times, Rob, they'll say, why do you guys care about box office? It's not your money. No, but it's not the money. It's what does the box office tell us? And one of the many things that box office tells us is what is exciting the audience right now? What's getting the audience's attention? We as film fans, what sort of content are we looking for? And there's a lot of that information in box office. And I get excited by seeing headlines like this, Rob, because it's telling me that people are getting excited about this really worthwhile property. And Rob, you're seeing these tracking numbers. Do you think A Quiet Place 2 can get to these numbers? Do you think it can beat the original? Or do you think the buzz isn't quite there yet? How are you feeling about it?
Dude, I think it's going to beat the original. I think it's going to exceed these numbers. A Quiet Place is one of those movies that everybody, if you didn't see it in the theater, you've caught up with it since then. And it's one of those movies that has an irresistible premise. And I was kind of wondering, how are they going to do a second one? Well, I think the trailers and the marketing for A Quiet Place 2 have been pretty stellar. And, man, you get to see the first day and then you get to see the aftermath after A Quiet Place is over. I think they've got the team coming back, other than the people that, of course, have survived on camera and those that haven't, but they might be behind the camera. But I think that this is a film that is an irresistible, crowd-pleasing, movie-going experience. And this was a surprise hit. I think more people have seen it. I think it's going to open huge, and I think they're actually underestimating. And I say this assuming the movie's going to be great. It looks like it's great from the trailers, but if the movie, turns out to be, say, Terminator Dark Fate and doesn't deliver, then all bets are off. But if this movie's good, John, I think it could open even bigger than what they're anticipating. What'd you say, 63 million?
I'm going to guess, I'm going to go more conservative. I'm going to say 58. I'm going to say 58, which will still be bigger than the original, but I'm going to go 58 on that. So the question is, guys, what are you feeling about this? Do you feel there's enough of a fan base from the original film and that the trailers for this one have been good enough? Do you feel there's a hunger there, enough hunger amongst the film fans, us film fans, to actually beat the opening weekend from the previous one? Do you see it going north of 50? Maybe you're saying, hey, no, you know what? The last one just overachieved. This one won't do quite as well. Maybe that's what you're thinking. Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by David, who writes, one of Ben Affleck's most criminally underrated and underappreciated movies is The Accountant. Amen, brother. It absolutely is. Anyway, fantastic cast, great action, and great story with a wide open ending for a franchise. Just read that Affleck said they're still trying to get it done, but they could ruin it by turning it into a TV show. Would you be okay with it hitting TV instead of a sequel? All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, David. And of course, what David is talking about is Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, who was in A Simple Favor, Rob, and Anna Kendrick.
And
Anna
you
Kendrick.
You always forget her name.
I love Anna Kendrick, and I freeze on her name every single time. Don't know why. Listen, incredible cast. That movie, The Accountant, was way better than it had any business being. That movie was so much better than any of us were anticipating, and nobody went to go see it. Because honestly, it didn't look like it was going to be all that great, but it's wonderful. But money speaks in Hollywood because it underperformed. It looked like it would never get a sequel. Then some chatter about a sequel started happening. Then the chatter disappeared. So where's the status now? Well, this is what Ben Affleck had to say about all this. He said, we've talked about doing An Accountant 2. There seems to be a debate whether or not to do a TV series version of it. The scriptwriter, the Ozark creator and showrunner Bill Dubuque, has become quite successful and busy, so he's off doing his thing. And somebody said to me, well, if we could find a script that we could retrofit and make into a sequel. But that's sort of tricky because the personality of the character is so specific. That doesn't really work just to say, well, we used to call this script Action Movie Shootout, and now we're going to call it The Accountant 2. All right, so that's what Ben Affleck's saying about this. So there's a couple of takeaways, Rob, on this that strike me. Takeaway number 1, they are at least still talking about trying to get An Accountant 2 done. And listen, after you've seen the first one and you saw how not great it did at the box office, the fact that they're even still talking about maybe finding a way to do An Accountant 2 speaks volumes, I think, to how much the people who saw that movie loved it and how good quality that movie was. Because it ain't business sense that's talking them into doing another one, Rob. It ain't business sense at this point because it didn't make a lot of money. That being said, Ben Affleck's last comment there makes a lot of sense. Look, you're talking about an action hero who, what was his condition? High functioning Down syndrome? Was that his condition?
Yeah, not Down syndrome. I think he was autistic.
High functioning autism. So forgive me, I'm clearly no expert on that stuff, but understanding the nature of that, which makes it such a unique hero character.
Yeah.
It does make it incredibly difficult. You just can't go out and grab a pre-existing action script and say, oh, let's just change the names of the characters in this, which does happen in Hollywood. Let's just change the names of the characters and we'll say it's The Accountant 2. Because you got it, like the whole nature of Ben Affleck's character is such a centerpiece for what makes this series so unique. And I guess we can't even call it a series yet because it's still only just one film, but it's what makes that film so unique. You just can't go out and just grab any old script and kind of retrofit it. So there is that. The idea of a television series. I don't know, Rob, that doing it as a television series necessarily ruins it, so I'm not going to go that far. But I will say I am far more interested in this property up on a big screen. Just the way it was paced out, the action of it is incredible. All that kind of stuff to me begs for it to be on the big screen instead. Would I still be okay if they did a television series? Sure, because they're making some really good TV today. But I just feel like this is a property that belongs to be a 3 or 4 film series on the big screen with this cast. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this all kind of works out either way. But if the option, Rob, was either no more of The Accountant or The Accountant on TV, I'll take The Accountant on TV. But Rob, what did you think about the first film? What do you think about Ben Affleck's comments? And thirdly, what do you think about the idea of it moving into a TV series?
Well, you know, you and I both really like this movie a lot. I really like The Accountant. I think it has an interesting premise. I think Ben Affleck turns in another great performance. It really sticks the landing. I like everything about The Accountant. And to be honest, it lends itself so well to making another movie. I mean, I would love to see this on big screen. Because one thing, if it's a TV series, it's not going to star Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be recast. And look, it could very well be a series, and it could be good. I mean, the Lethal Weapon TV series was surprisingly better than it had any right to be as it went along. But it's still, I'm like, it's Lethal Weapons, Riggs, and Murtaugh. It's Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. I mean, and there has been a lot of TV series that have been as good, if not better, than movies, like MASH being one of them. But for this, I think this character deserves. I want the Die Hard 2 of accountant movies, John. I mean, I think the Accountant 2, crunch numbers harder, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but I would love to see another accountant movie. But if they do go the TV series route, again, I hope it's slick. I hope it's well done. I hope you end up with a show that's the equivalent of what Fargo has become on TV to the original film. If we could get some of that quality, bring it on.
All right, guys. Question here is, what do you think about Ben Affleck's comments? Did you even see the first Accountant? If you haven't, shame on you, my friends. Make sure you watch The Accountant. Or maybe you did see and you didn't even like it. Do you think it belongs on the big screen? Or maybe you'd like to see it give it a go on TV. What are you guys thinking? Jump down into the comments section and let us know your thoughts. Okay, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Dillard McFarland, who writes, "Hey team, I know Suicide Squad was a mess, as you always say. Yeah, I like Suicide Squad, but it is a hot mess of a movie. But I'm very excited for the new one with James Gunn directing, and I was really pumped when Nathan Fillion joined. Did you see Fillion's interview where he said he only joined the new Suicide Squad because it's a James Gunn film? What do you think about an actor only joining a movie because of the director?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yeah, listen, I don't defend Suicide Squad, the original, the first Suicide Squad with Will Smith. I don't defend it, but I unapologetically say I enjoyed it. Now, it was a hot mess. There was a lot of bad stuff in it, and there's a lot of downside to it. I'm not denying that. But at the end of the day, when I walked out of the theater, I had a good time. So overall, hey, it is what it is. But then they said James Gunn was doing Suicide Squad, which was fascinating, Rob, because at that time, every single Hollywood studio was lining up, throwing offers at him, and he could have made any movie he wanted to make. They even offered him Superman if he wanted to do it. That's how bad Warner Brothers wanted James Gunn. Yeah. Warner Brothers didn't even want to do anything with Superman, but to get James Gunn in, they were like, hey, man, if you want to do Superman, we'll let you do Superman. And he opted for Suicide Squad, which was surprising, but at the same time, a brilliant fit, I think. Anyway, one of the announcements, as they mentioned in the email there, was that we've got Nathan Fillion, who, by the way, is killing it on that show, The Rookie. If you're not watching The Rookie, you should check it out. Nathan Fillion's great in it. And anyway, he was asked about what brought him to Suicide Squad. And Nathan Fillion, that's not Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion said the following: James Gunn one of the people in my life that when he calls, I just say yes to whatever you're about to say. It's yes. The answer's yes. James Gunn is an amazing storyteller. That guy understands story and he loves to tell story. So when he wants to do something, you know it's going to be fun and you know it's going to be satisfying. And that, of course, comes from Nathan Fillion. And Rob, of course, Nathan Fillion worked with James Gunn a number of times previously. Of course, he did that. He was one of the alien creatures, so you never knew it was him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. He shot a cameo for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that apparently never made it into the film. He was going to be like something on a poster somewhere in the background or something like that. But to me, Rob, when I think of Nathan Fillion working with James Gunn, I will always go back to Slither. Slither, to me, is one of the top 10 most underrated and underappreciated films ever made. Like, ever made. It is one of my favorite go-to movies. That and Vanilla Ice's Cool as Ice. It was one of my favorite go-to movies when hanging out with some friends and it comes up that they never saw this movie. I'm like, okay, then we're canceling our plans for the rest of the evening and we're watching Slither. Guys, if you haven't seen James Gunn's Slither with Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, oh my God, Michael Rooker, you got to watch that damn movie. It's so good. So these guys together is always magic to me. And look, when you think about Suicide Squad, Rob, you think of this really weird, eclectic kind of mishmash of characters. And for them to throw in like this incredible ensemble that they seem to be doing, adding a Nathan Fillion into it seems great. As far as what do I feel about an actor specifically taking a role because of the director, that's not an unusual thing at all.
No.
Because as an actor, your main pipeline, your lifeline is your relationship with the director. You've got to trust the director. You're putting yourselves in their hands. And if you have a great experience with the director as an actor, at least this is what all the actors have told me, once you have a great experience with the director, you want to work with that director. You want to put yourselves back in that director's hands. You want to be under the stewardship of him or her on set. And just watching these guys work together, I'm all in. So anyway, Rob, you hear Nathan Fillion's comments. What do you make of them?
Well, here's the thing. We watch movies because we want to see what happens to the characters in those films. And I think one of the most critical relationships or one of the most critical elements of making a movie is a director who not only casts his movies properly, but knows how to utilize those actors in the best possible way. And James Gunn is a guy that has long-standing relationships with actors because he knows actors, he meets them, and he makes films to their strengths. Yondu, for instance, Michael Rooker, other than maybe Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and of course I like the character he played in Days of Thunder, but Michael Rooker has been given these sort of indelible roles, and I think Yondu might be, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. No one's going to forget that. And I don't think any director in Hollywood would use Michael Rooker the way James Gunn did. I think the same is true of Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion is a fan favorite, and yet he hasn't really broken through with a huge Hollywood career. And you'd think after Slither, which, by the way, is a wonderful movie, and James Gunn, what was so great is that he was lucky enough to, after making a lot of these working in low-budget indie, whether it was working for Troma and then making movies like Slither and Super, and after being a pretty accomplished studio film writer, he was able to break through and make movies that are playing to his strengths. And I think James Gunn was really smart. Making a Superman movie might have been, okay, great, but it would have been a thankless task for him because with Suicide Squad, he's going to just come in and James Gunn that movie up. And it's probably going to wind up being, it's going to be delightful. And people are going to be like, wow, why wasn't the first movie like this? And I think he's been very shrewd. He knows that James Gunn knows that he could be one step away from Hollywood oblivion. He almost was gone. And now he comes back, and there's a reason he chose Suicide Squad. It plays to his strengths. And I think he might have known that eventually the Guardians of the Galaxy situation would come back. But, Nathan Fillion's probably smart because he knows that all the directors in Hollywood that he could possibly work with, James Gunn is going to take care of him and make him look the best he can look. And otherwise, he might just be second fiddle in someone's movie and be unremarkable. But he's probably being given a role where he can shine. and James Gunn is employing him like any great assassin knows what weapon to use to get the job done. James Gunn employs actors, and I mean employs them, drops them in his movies, and utilizes them in such a way that the audience just has a big smile on their face, and they'll never forget the roles those guys play or girls play.
Look, to your point, look what he did with Dave Bautista.
Oh,
you know, a
that's
guy,
a great case in point right there.
Yeah, who had who remains like, and Dave is great about this because Dave would be the first one to tell you, hey, look, I'm no big thespian, but especially at the time as he was getting started, he had very limited stuff that he could do. James Gunn was able to take what Dave brought to the table, really accentuate and highlight the gifts that he had, and totally hid the weaknesses at the same time, and turned Drax the Destroyer into a fan favorite. Right?
Yeah.
So actually, one of the best comments I saw on my Twitter last night, because I just saw The Invisible Man, and you know, I loved it and blah, blah, blah. And somebody wrote a response on Twitter. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So this is the Dave Bautista Drax solo movie, right? Get it? Because if I hold perfectly still. Anyway, so that's something that he does. Anyway, guys, question is, you hear Nathan Fillion's comments. What do you think about him and his like absolute desire to work with James Gunn? What do you think about him being in Suicide? What are your thoughts on Suicide Squad coming up in general? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Riley Doyle, who writes, with the coronavirus panic continuing to grow, it looks like AMC just closed their first theaters in response to it in Italy. According to a story in Deadline, AMC has closed 22 of their theaters there. Do you think this is a good move on their part, or are they overreacting? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And of course, listen, we're a movie show. I don't like talking about world events or politics or anything like that. We are a movie show. But sometimes, every once in a while, major world events creep into the movie world and affects how movies are being done or handled or what have you. And this is one of those situations. And yes, you're absolutely right, Riley. AMC Theaters, of who I used to work for, they have just shut down for 1 week 22 of their theaters in Italy. Color me surprised. Up until this moment, I didn't even know AMC had theaters in Italy. So, hey, you learn something new every day. This comes to us from Deadline, though. AMC Theaters has no theaters in China, South Korea, or Iran, and the economic impact has been minimal from the coronavirus. How big of an economical impact? Not much. Between $500,000 and $1 million for 1 week's closure, which the executive says, that these are quotes coming from the CEO of AMC, by the way, won't be noticed when we wrap up AMC for the year in the US and Northern Europe. We felt little or no pain, said Aaron, who mentioned that the chain is taking advice from government and medical experts in guaranteeing the safety of the chain's millions of guests across 15 countries in 1,000 theaters. So one of the important things to know about this particular story is that this wasn't just AMC on their own making a unilateral decision just to close their things. They have been in consultation with the government in Italy. They actually heard what the government in Italy was asking companies to do and what they would like them to do. And as they mentioned earlier in this article, AMC said, look, this is our being overly cautious response and wanting to be responsible and working with local governments and honoring their requests and all this kind of stuff. Rob, we've often said on this show that everybody is an expert on what other people should do. And look, you're guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. Everybody's an expert on what somebody else should do.
But aren't we, John?
Aren't we, though? Aren't we? Isn't it time that everybody just acknowledges that we are? Sure. I'm talking about everybody else, Rob. I'm talking about everybody else. Present company excluded.
Okay.
But, you know, a lot of people saying, oh, you can't kowtow to fear. You have to do this. It's like, yeah, but, you know, when the local government is trying to take steps to protect their populace. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, I mean, the flu does a lot more and blah, blah. Yeah, no, that's true. But this is a new gig. This is a new thing. And it's causing a lot of fear. And it has like a 10 times higher mortality rate than the flu does and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. They want to be responsible. They are willing to take. Now, look, I often have some qualms with AMC theaters, but They are willing to take a financial hit in order to be respectful to the local governance, to want to be overly cautious to their own employees, to their consumers, to their patrons. And, Rob, it's one of these things where, we often joke about the saying, what is it? A gun is like a condom. You'd rather have one and not need it than need it and not have it. So, like, wise words. I think that's in Proverbs somewhere. I think it's in the biblical book of Proverbs somewhere. But in a situation like this, that AMC would be willing to say, look, we would rather be overly cautious for no reason than be under cautious and pay the price for that. And if that means to protect everybody and ourselves, or we're gonna lose $1 million or $2 million or whatever, fine. We want to respect the local government's wishes. We want to be seen as being overly cautious rather than underly cautious. I get it. Now, look, if I'm a business executive and I'm in charge of making that decision, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I do. But I can see why they made this choice, and I respect that they made this choice. Anyway, Rob, sure. This is a huge, convoluted, complicated issue that goes well beyond anything that we would call our expertise at all. But you see a situation like this, AMC makes this decision. How do you feel about it?
I think they have no choice. I mean, one of the things that you're dealing with when it comes to movie theaters is what are you doing? You're collecting a lot of disparate people into a single room, and and they're all sitting. You have 5 shows a day or something, and people come and go, and their hands are on the armrests, and it is a petri dish that it's on fire in terms of like, remember the movie Outbreak, John, the Dustin Hoffman movie?
I love that movie.
I did too. Wolfgang Peterson directed it. There's that great scene in a movie theater,
yeah,
which shows people coughing and the camera's going up into the, and you see the particles. I mean, you just sit there and you're like, yeesh. And what was great was I saw that movie in a theater, and when you're sitting in there, oh, it could be happening to me right now. And that's what movie theaters are. They're just incubators for virulent pandemic plague symptoms, and I think it was a smart move. Italy obviously is now a pretty big, I guess it's the epicenter for Europe in terms of the coronavirus outbreak. So I think it was a smart move. It shows that they're thinking about their customers and they're thinking about the public health. I actually think it says a lot about AMC. So good on them for taking those precautions. I'm bummed out, John. I don't want the release of No Time to Die to be affected. I'm selfish. I know I'm not thinking of the people afflicted or the rest of the world, but as a movie fan, I want to see the new James Bond movie, and I want it to be really successful.
And we already know, like, No Time to Die is one of the key films that is going to be affected. They had their press tour in China canceled. They had their premiere in China canceled, all that kind of stuff. Again, bigger picture. We understand, like, outside of our world of movie, and that's what we talk about in this little bubble here. We talk movies. That's the most important thing. But we are cognizant of the fact that there are bigger issues out there, and sometimes that might interfere and step on the toes of our movie going. First world problems, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, guys, you guys hear about this. What do you think about it? Do you applaud AMC for making a move like this? Do you scoff at it, saying, look, this is really being reactionary? How do you feel about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on to our live questions today that you guys have been firing in. But before we get to the live questions, as we do every day, Robert and I right now are going to take just a short couple of minute break. We're going to stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, go refill the drinks, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom if you'd like. So if you will hang tight with us, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your live questions. See you in just a couple of minutes. Guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. And now, without any further ado, let's dive in and start taking your guys' live questions. We're going to get things started off here with Taj and Cars, who sends in a really large super chat. Thanks for supporting us on that level, Taj. We appreciate it, man. Finally got around to Birds of Prey, and I agree with your take. My question is about writing rooms. Whenever Huntress was on screen, it felt like the writing significantly improved. Would her character have had a different writer? I don't believe that. I don't think they would have had individual writers for individual characters, because even if you have a character on screen, you're still writing for the entire rest of the cast and everything that's in there. So I don't see that. Like, sometimes though, a character comes onto a scene and it just kind of changes the nature and tone of the scene. And I agree with you. I think whenever Huntress was there, it felt a little bit like a different movie. Dare I say a little bit better of a movie, but they didn't even get around to using Huntress till the third act of the film, which was a crazy thought to me, Taj. Crazy thought to me. But no, I don't believe they have one writer for one character, because that would kind of mess things up a bit. All right, John the Movie Fan writes, "Hey, John, happy belated birthday. Thank you so much. It was also my birthday yesterday, too. Well, happy birthday to you, my friend. I just want to say your channel got me to be a bigger movie fan from all the movie news you report. My question is, how much do you think Invisible Man will do at the box office?" Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's going to be successful, Rob. I mean, that much we know for sure, right? It's going to be successful because it only costs like $7 million to make, and I don't know that they spent more than 20 or 30 million marketing it. And so they're going to do that. I'm guessing opening weekend, 20 to 25 million. So you're talking about making 3 times its production budget on opening weekend. I'm going to guess 20 to 25 million. Ultimately, we'll see if it has legs or not, but that's where I'm guessing. Where are you guessing it's going to be right now, Rob?
I think that's a pretty good guess. I mean, look, I think this is going to be a zeitgeist movie. I think that it plays on a woman's worst fear. Somebody's in your own house, somebody you can't get away from, somebody that people don't even believe that person exists, and they're coming for you. I can't think, and being able to prey on those kinds of realistic fears is something a lot of horror films don't get to do. And when they do, and as you've said, as other reviewers have said, these are the kind of movies that really take off. So I could see this movie even hitting 30. If word of mouth's good, it did 1.5 million last night in its previews.
Yeah,
so,
I'll tell you what, too. Every theater, when Ann and I try to get tickets, every theater, at least in the Burbank area, there's the AMC 16, the 8, and the 6. They were all sold out.
Yeah,
we got a couple of lost tickets. It was
I think
crazy.
People want to see this. And one of the things that people don't realize is the female audience drives a lot of horror. And that was something they didn't realize until the last decade or so. But this, man, talk about a zeitgeist horror movie for girls. This is it.
Yeah, this one's really good. I really, guys, do go see it. I had a good time with it. Okay, next one up. Cameron Barnett writes, Scott Derrickson wants to do a Constantine movie. Should WB consider him for Justice League Dark? I don't even know that they should do a Justice League Dark. I mean, and honestly, Cameron, I don't like getting into should X director direct X movie. As long as it's a good, talented director, then I'm good with whatever director, whatever match. Rob, I got to admit, I've never been one that thought that Justice League Dark would even work as a movie. Then again, I never thought Lego Movie would work as a movie either. So they often will surprise us. But on its surface, I don't know that Justice League Dark is the way to go. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it could be their version of Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you think they could go in something like that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could. I could see that.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on.
All right, next one up here. Geeky Gator writes, good morning, John. Looking forward to the new Matrix because my boo, Jessica Henwick. By the way, by acknowledging this message, you agree to pay 4,227 Korean won for each email of mine you used as a daily topic to be applied retroactively. So, like, yeah, Geeky Gator is one of the users who submits, first of all, a lot of questions. But we actually end up using a lot of Geeky Gator's emails because... And I've had some people ask me, John, why do you use so many Geeky Gators? Well, this is why. Because, for example, Rob, the other day, there was the Indiana Jones news broke, right? That Steven Spielberg wasn't going to direct Indiana Jones.
Right.
So, of course, about 100 of the emails we got were on that topic, and I can only pick one. Whereas Geeky Gator will write in about another significant news topic that literally nobody else writes in about. It's like, oh, well, that's a great topic. And nobody else has written in about it. So there we go. So Geeky Gator is just one of those users that seems to have a really good idea about the not biggest stories, but important stories that we really should be talking about. And nobody else is writing in about those because they're
Finger on the pulse.
Finger on the pulse. But no, Geeky Gator, I will not be sending you. You know, I'll tell you what. I will send you the 4,227 yen in, as South Park would call it, in internet dollars. I'll send those to you in internet dollars. All right, Taj and Cars writes, I ran out of space in my last question. Do movies have different writers specifically for different characters? Huntress felt like she was written funnier than everyone else in the movie. Again, no, I don't know of any situations like that's ever really happened where, Rob, that you have one writer on one of the screenwriters on a movie who is only there to write the dialogue for one specific character. I mean, I know like Joss Whedon has been flown in by Marvel sometimes to punch up dialogue in a scene, but it's never really been for one character. Are you aware of any situations like that?
Well, you know, I was just reading an interview with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she of Fleabag fame, and of course she's been brought on to write. She was for No Time to Die, and she was specifically brought in to punch up a lot of the female characters' dialogue. I think the Ana de Armas character and also the new 007. And I thought that was interesting. But I understand why. You know, it makes sense to me, especially when I'm sure Daniel Craig saw Killing Eve and said, look, we need to punch up our dialogue with for the ladies to give them more characterization. And I think that was very, very smart thing to do. But usually it doesn't happen for one character.
All right. Next up, we've got Mark C. who writes, do you think Spielberg's relationship with George Lucas factored into his decision to walk away from Indy 5? No, none at all. It's a ridiculous concept because, as last time I checked, Steven Spielberg had a relationship with George Lucas 3 years ago, and yet he was still attached 3 years ago. He had a relationship with George Lucas 2 years ago, and yet he was still attached 2 years ago. He still had a relationship with George Lucas 6 months ago, and yet 6 months ago, he was still attached to the project 6 months ago. Not to mention, he is still, as Steven Spielberg calls it, he is still going to be an active hands-on producer for the new one. Now, look, I don't believe for a second the statement that Steven Spielberg's just decided it's time for a new, younger generation to try directing it. Really? An 80-year-old Indiana Jones is the time for a new, younger generation director to take over Indy after you've been attached for 5 years already? I don't believe that for a second. But no, I've seen some of the other speculation. I saw on my Twitter feed some people saying that they thought, oh, it's because of George Lucas. That's nonsense because logically that doesn't pan out. If that was the case, it's something that Steven Spielberg would have pulled the trigger on a year ago. But as of a year ago, he was still talking that he's actively looking forward to it and blah, blah, blah. So no, I honestly don't believe if you actually want to use logic and common sense, there doesn't seem to be any connection there whatsoever. Because again, if Steven Spielberg had walked away from this, say, a year ago, let's say it was a year ago, and Spielberg walked away, or a year and a half ago, well, maybe there might be something there. But at this point, I just don't see how that would be remotely connected. I know it's a really juicy thing to kind of speculate about because it's drama and it's juicy, but really logic dictates that it's probably not. I don't know, Rob, like, do you think that Spielberg's connection with Lucas had anything to do with his decision to step out of, at least he's still attached to produce it, but to step out of the director's chair?
I don't know, perhaps, but I also think these movies are probably really taxing to make from a directing standpoint, especially if they're going to be globe-trotting and going to far-flung locations. And Steven Spielberg's getting up there, and he's just coming off of West Side Story, which probably was, even though they're in New York and they're filming still on location, he's probably, well, it's just like, man, I can't do it. I gotta pass it off to somebody a little younger than me. And I think of all the people that are working in Hollywood today, I think James Mangold is our best choice. If only just think about the driving sequences in Ford v Ferrari. Imagine that applied to an action sequence, a truck chase or whatever. And I think Spielberg, you at some point you gotta make changes that are good for you, John. And I think it might have been a Lucas thing, but I think they probably just agreed to sit back and let the younger folks take over. That's what I imagine.
I really think it's more a case of he's just, quite frankly, he's just got other films that interest him more.
Yeah, I mean,
really
how much time does he have left?
Yeah. And look, this whole indie thing has kept being delayed and delayed and delayed. And remember, this film was supposed to come out in 2019. And they still haven't started shooting. They still don't even know when they're going to start shooting it. So I really think the more logical, makes far more common sense here is just that, frankly, he's got other films he's more interested in doing. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We may never know, Rob. We may never know. All right. Next up, Zachary Corvetti sends in a $50 super chat. And of course, when somebody sends in $50 or more, we not only answer the question, but we will answer it in its own standalone video in a couple of weeks. So Zachary Corvetti writes, "Hey, John, I know you're not one for top 10 lists. I'm not. But I'd be curious to hear your current top 10 directors." Hey, I know you're allergic to apples, but would you like to eat an apple? He just said, I know you don't like doing top 10 lists, but do a top 10 list. No, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll tell you what I will do, though. When it comes time in a few weeks, once we start getting caught up, in a few weeks, I will do a standalone video on this. And I will give you 10 of my favorite directors in no particular order. I mean, everybody knows Steven Spielberg, in my opinion, is the greatest filmmaker of all time. So we all know that Steven Spielberg is going to be there. But it's not something I walk around with off the top of my head because I don't like relegating them like that. So, but I will do a list. I will do a list of 10 of my favorite directors in no particular order. I will do that once I get around to doing that list. But Rob, listen, off the top of do you have any directors right now that are some of your favorite going right now as we head into 2020?
Well, I mean, David Fincher is one of my favorite directors, and he's making his new movie Mank about Herman Mankiewicz. That
everybody's talking about that.
His father wrote, and I can't wait. I mean, the writing of Citizen Kane, and I know they made the RKO movie for HBO a while ago, but anything that they're making, and of course, I hate to say it might be cliche, but Martin Scorsese's Flower Moon storyline, which they were calling his first Western. What a cast, and those are the things I want to see. I mean, again, I'm all about authorship, and I really want to see. I'll tell you what I really want to see. You know what's number one with the bullet in terms of movies that people might not have on their radar? David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg, has made a film that I don't know if it was at Sundance, called Possessor, that is supposedly a crazy, horribly violent body horror, like about an assassin who takes over people's minds or something. Now, this is only his second film. It took him 8 years to get it done, but his first movie, Antiviral, was significantly bonkers enough. He's definitely taking up the family business, and I cannot wait. If you want it, there's a couple of really interesting articles on the making of Possessor and reviews of Possessor. Go look that up, man, because, dude, I can't wait to see Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor.
All right. We move on now. Next up comes to us from 50 Shades, who writes, Alan Horn finally retires, or at least goes back to retirement. He gets on a plane for a vacation in the Bahamas, falls asleep on the plane, then wakes up in horror at the sight of a talking raccoon with the voice of Bob Iger saying, Alan, listen, it's probably completely true because a lot of people keep forgetting. I talk about it all the time here, but it's still a lot of people overlook. Alan Horn had retired. He had retired. He was one of the most successful movie executives in history, and he retired, enjoying, his life, living it up, doing whatever it is he wants to do. And then along comes Bob Iger saying, Alan, I need you to come out of retirement over to Disney, save our film division. So Alan Horn goes, all right, fine. He comes out of retirement, and look at what Disney, their movie division, has become. It's insane what it's become under Alan Horn's leadership. And for the last number of years, he's just been trying to figure out when can I get back to Tahiti? When can I get out of here again? And now with Bob Iger moving on, probably fine. But yeah, I think you're right, 50 Shades. I think he's probably waking up in cold sweats hearing Bob Iger's voice saying, no, we need you for just one more year, Alan, or something like that. But I think we're going to hear he's going to go back to his well-deserved retirement here pretty soon. All right, 50 Shades also writes, speaking of Alan Horn, it's his birthday today. I didn't know that. Isn't it weird that February 26th is your birthday, February 27th is Pokemon Day? I've never heard of Pokemon Day. And February 28th is Alan Horn's birthday. Coincidence? Probably. I don't care much about Pokemon, so I'm not quite sure there's any connection there. But that's interesting. Maybe me and Alan should get together and have birthday drinks together. There you go, Alan. I know you watch this show every day, so consider that an open invitation. For the record, Alan Horn does not watch this show. All right, next up, an anonymous viewer writes, hey, John, I know you've talked about this before, so forgive me, but I can't fully remember your thoughts. I am an A-list member, but I recently moved, and now my closest theater is a Regal. Is Unlimited worth it, or should I drive 20 minutes more for AMC? That's a tough, that's really only a question you can answer because, not all theaters are equal. You may really like the experience in one theater and not another one so much. All other things being equal, this is what I would personally do. If the Regal and the AMC that are the closest to you are roughly equivalent in their movie-going experience, you like their popcorn, you like their seats, you like the atmosphere, you like the convenience of parking, whatever. Let's say, for argument's sake, it roughly works out to the same. The Regal pass isn't quite as good as the AMC. There's a lot of little nickel and diming that goes on, but at the end of the day, it is still a great movie deal. Not as good as AMC A-List, but it's still a great movie deal. And I would say, all other things being equal, go with the one that's 20 minutes closer. But again, only you can answer that question. Maybe you start to find it annoying with all the little nickel and diming on the thing. Again, it's still a great deal though. So for me, I would go with the Regal one. But if you really prefer the AMC movie-going experience and you use it enough that it actually becomes quite cost-saving, then maybe make the extra 20 minutes drive, or maybe just save that one for special occasions. For me, I would probably go with what's closer. If it was a 5 minutes difference, always go with the AMC. 20 minutes, I think I would go with Regal. But again, maybe the Regal's a piece of trash. Maybe that particular theater, because AMC has some terrible theaters. I'm sure Regal has some terrible theaters. Maybe the Regal theater near you is terrible. In that case, it answers the question. But only you can answer that, my friend. Only you. All right, Mr. Donut writes, so I don't think you have talked about this yet. So here we go. Altered Carbon Season 2. Have you seen it? No, I haven't. Don't really plan on it, to be honest.
It just dropped last night or tonight. Yeah, last night.
Yeah, and it's got Anthony Mackie in it, right?
Yeah, and everyone says it's better than the first season. Season 1.
So I'd love to hear your opinion. I think it's great. Lots of love from the Netherlands. I love your show. It gets me through dark times. Oh, that's awesome, Mr. Don. Thank you for sharing that. I'm not an Altered Carbon guy. I haven't watched a show. I have very, very limited time to watch television. But I remember hearing somebody mentioned on the show the other day, Rob, that Anthony Mackie was in it. And I'm like, how do you have this show dropping and Anthony Mackie's in it and I've never even heard about it? I mean, it's crazy how bad it continues to be. How can Netflix be so good and yet be so completely terrible at marketing their content? It's unbelievable to me. But anyway, Rob, are you an Altered Carbon guy? Have you seen season 1?
I did. I thought season 1 was pretty intriguing. I mean, I actually read the book, the original book, and I mean, I liked it. It was good, but I didn't think it was great. It was a little the pacing was off, but it was beautifully made. And I think Anthony Mackie, as he develops more of a leading man presence, I really like him. I really like him as an actor. So
do I.
He's got something. He's got that it factor that I like, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this. So I'll probably dip into it this weekend.
And if you haven't had a chance to see Anthony Mackie in Detroit,
oh yeah,
he's so good in that. I really like Anthony Mackie. Very much looking forward to Falcon and Winter Soldier. All right, and anonymous viewer writes, if you're in charge, who wins in a fight, Magneto or Vader? Oh, do you even have to ask? Also, thanks for the show. You're the best. Now, listen, Magneto is my all-time, not Batman, not Spider-Man, my all-time favorite comic book character is Magneto, as a matter of fact. I just think it's a brilliant character. I've gone on why before a million times. But Vader, man, the Force beats magnetism. Sorry, the Force beats magnetism. Vader, all day, every day, wins that fight, if I'm writing it. Of course, it all depends on who's writing it, doesn't it? Rob, you're writing that comic issue where Magneto gets teleported into a galaxy far, far away. Who wins that fight if you're writing the issue?
Dude, Magneto would take Vader's lightsaber apart. He would take his respirator apart. Magneto, he would flick his fingers from far away and tear Vader, into pieces. Into pieces. And then whatever remained of his blood, the iron in his blood would be splattered across wherever Vader happened to be standing. Magneto all day, every day.
The Force beats magnetism.
No way.
Period. All right. I knew you'd go there. All right. Next one up comes us from Hitchcock is the GOAT writes, one of two, Indiana Jones and Daniel Craig's Bond correlations. The first most consider the best, Casino Royale and Raiders. Actually, I don't consider Raiders. I think Last Crusade is the best one. That's just me. The second is a drop-off, Temple of Doom and Quantum of Solace. The third is a bounce-back and many others' favorites, Skyfall and Last Crusade. The fourth, a big disappointment for many, Crystal Skull and Spectre, although I appreciated both, and the fifth installments for both franchises promises a proper send-off for Ford and Craig as the world crosses its fingers. You know what? That's actually, I disagree a little bit on some of the finer points there, but that's actually not a bad little way of looking across it. And you're right, they're both entering that phase right now where they're trying to get proper send-offs. Again, though, Spectre wasn't nearly as disliked by nearly as many people as Crystal Skull was. I mean, Spectre, I think most people say, was a step down and one of the lesser Daniel Craig Bond films for sure, but it didn't receive the type of universal mockery that, say, Crystal Skull did. But Rob, what do you think about those comparisons?
Well, look, I'm a Quantum of Solace apologist, but I think Temple of Doom is a far, far better movie than Quantum of Solace. But I do think it's a very interesting analysis. And there's a lot of truth in what is stated there. I think absolutely equating Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to Spectre, it works. You're right. I think a lot more people were paying attention to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I think Spectre wasn't as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was, but it equally was disappointing in other ways. Although the opening of both films, I mean, I like the opening of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I love the opening of Spectre, but man, do the rest of the movie, both of them, disappoint. So that's a pretty good analysis, and I hope he's right. I hope that I want No Time to Die to stick the landing so bad. I can't wait. I hope Daniel Craig, I hope it's the best movie that I'm very excited. My confidence is very high, John.
All right, next up, and we're getting closer. James Durden writes, hey, John, first-time donation. Oh, thanks so much, James. We appreciate the support, and thanks for being here and being a viewer, man. All right, I totally agree. Spielberg's reason for dropping out of Indy 5 is BS. It absolutely is. But my question is, do you think Spielberg still has the clout he used to? Oh, absolutely he does. I mean, when he made a movie, everyone pretty much got out of his way and let him work. Oh, when Steven Spielberg wants, nobody interferes with Steven Spielberg. Nobody interferes with Steven Spielberg. Like I said on yesterday's show, Steven Spielberg, it was funny when they went out of the way to say that Spielberg's decision to step down was completely his decision and his alone. To which I said, of course it was. You don't fire Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg fires you. I mean, that's just the way it works. Nobody is interfering with Steven Spielberg. I literally believe, and again, no insider information here, so we could find out later that that's completely something different. My belief right now is absolutely this is a matter of, I just think he's interested in other films more than he's interested in doing another Indiana Jones. And I think he was attached to this for so long, and it's taken them so long to get their ducks in a row and to get this all together and to get the script to where he was happy with it and other people are happy with it. And I think he finally just got to the point of saying, look, I'm not waiting for this anymore. I've got other movies I want to do. I've got a limited amount of time because it takes a hell of a long time to make movies. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be making movies for, and I'm going to do this. So I'll still produce, but I'm gone. And I really do think that's what it comes down to. But to Stevens, there's nobody in Hollywood who, other than somebody with the last name Iger, I don't know there's anybody else in Hollywood that has more clout than Steven Spielberg. Like you listen to like a J.J. Abrams when Spielberg's name comes up in a room of directors, it's almost like a natural reflex that they start to genuflect. It's like, oh, he's not even in the room. But that's kind of what it is. So, Rob, I don't know. Do you maybe feel that Spielberg doesn't have the clout that he used to at this point?
Bruh. Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg can do anything he wants. Sure. Has he made movies such as perhaps things like the BFG, which weren't my favorites?
I love BFG, by the way.
But I mean,
I kind of loved it.
Steven Spielberg, like you say, he's still the GOAT. I mean, the man is a legend. And I mean, he just is. And by the way, he's got West Side Story coming out, which, as you as a song and dance man and me as West Side Story is one of my favorite movies. I can't wait to see what he's done with it. I love the musical. I love those songs. And I mean, I think he's going to come out at the end of this year and be in contention for Best Picture of the Year. And I think when Steven Spielberg wants to come out and make a film, he can do whatever he wants. There's not one person in Hollywood who doesn't want to say that they didn't take Steven Spielberg's call and gave him what he wanted. Not one.
I agree. Completely agree. Okay, next one up. Suthius writes, hey guys, don't know why, but Cowboy Ninja Viking, wow, that's a movie I haven't talked about in a while, came to mind, and I started to wonder, are they still moving forward with this because I want it? I looked up past videos and only found segments of you saying the movie was put on hold back in the summer of 2018. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, there was this movie that got put into development that got Chris Pratt attached to star in it called Cowboy Ninja Viking. And I believe it was based on a graphic novel. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was. And all of a sudden, it stopped. And yes, back in 2018, they said, yeah, it's on hold right now. I don't think there's been any movement. I don't think they've attached any other cast except for maybe Chorpa. But I think it's kind of dead in the water. Now, whether that means it's never going to see the light of day again, I'm not sure. But as of right now, it is completely stalled. So whether they've just straight up canceled it, or it's still on the burner and they're going to try to get it moving again. But from my understanding, as of right now, this is a project that has completely stalled. Let's see if it has a little bit more life a little bit later. And I'm with you, Suthius. I was really curious to see this thing too. All right. Jonathan writes, another guilty pleasure movie, Tower Heist. Love the cast. Actually, you know what? That's a charming, fun little movie. I like Tower Heist. Hilarious, and the score, one of my favorite. It's got that slick, cool sound to it. Used to listen to that. Thoughts on Tower Heist? Well, you got Ben Stiller, Eddie Murphy, Matthew Broderick. I'm trying to remember who else was in it as well. I actually thought Tower Heist was a nice, fun little movie. And if I'm not mistaken, Rob, I think Tower Heist might have been at the center of a little bit of Oscar controversy because the guy who directed Tower Heist is the same guy who directed, why am I freezing on the name of the Jackie Chan cop action films?
Brett Ratner?
Brett Ratner, yes. I believe Brett Ratner directed Tower Heist. And he was going to be like the producer of the Oscars that year or something. And he chose Eddie Murphy. Do you remember this? Eddie Murphy was going to be the host of the Oscars. And then there was some blowback on that because it looked like you're just trying to promote your own movie. You're using the Oscars just to promote your own movie and blah, blah. And then Eddie Murphy ultimately didn't do that. But listen, the movie itself, I thought, like, not one of the all-time greats, but I thought it's a fun little heist film. It's got some decent laughs. Matthew Broderick in it is actually really great. So yeah, I like Tower Heist. Rob, can you even remember the film at this point? Because it was a while ago. It didn't make a big splash.
I never saw Tower Heist, but you know, it's interesting. I'm looking at this cast: Ben Stiller, Eddie Murphy, Casey Affleck, Alan Alda, Matthew Broderick, Judd Hirsch, Téa Leoni, Michael Pena. I mean, I want to go see this movie now. And Zelko Ivanek, who's a great character actor. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, but I mean, this movie has. I want to see it. I got to go see this movie now. Is it worth seeing?
Oh, it's worth seeing. Yeah, it's again not one of the all-time greats. Don't get me wrong, but a fun, charming little heist film, and I'm always a sucker for those. Always a sucker for those.
I like Money Train, his first movie, but I'm not a big Brett Ratner fan.
Well, Brett Ratner doesn't have a lot of fans these days, but it is what it is. What was the name of that damn film series he did with Jackie Chan again? Rush Hour. Rush Hour. That's what it was. Okay, next up. Let's see here. Orange Hand writes, the VidAngel streaming service mentioned yesterday actually violates the DMCA by using unauthorized copies of movies. They face several lawsuits. Yes, they have. They have faced it. So somebody brought up, Rob, yesterday, the VidAngel service, where basically you can watch a movie, but they will, depending on what your preferences you set, they will edit out swearing or nudity or sex, right? My response to that, and I'd like to hear your reaction to this, Rob. My response to it was, I don't care. And here's why I don't care. I don't care because when I get a movie and I bring it home on my old VHS cassette player or on my DVD or on my Blu-ray or now on my streaming service, let's say I don't want to watch nudity. God, I love nudity in my movies. But let's say I didn't want to see nudity. All right? When a part of the movie comes up that has nudity, guess what? They can't send a cop over to my house to monitor me to make sure I don't fast forward through it. If I want to fast forward through it, if I, for my choosing, don't want to see a torture scene, or if I decide I don't want to see a sex scene, and bring it on. But if I, for whatever crazy reason, I start to lose my mind and I don't want to see a sex scene or whatever, guess what? I can edit it out. I can fast forward through it. I can mute the TV while it's on. If I want to do that, I can do that. So in principle, I've never minded the fact, and I get it, but John, the artistic vision of the director, I get it, I do. And that's how I personally would want to watch it for me. But I got no problem with anybody else who decides, I don't want to watch that part. Okay, then it's your movie. If you don't want to watch that part, don't watch that part. There's nobody saying, if you don't agree to watch that part, you can't own this movie. You can't do that. So I don't care. I don't care if there's some service out there that figures out a way to work within the DMCA and all that kind of stuff that makes it work. Go for it. Then I don't care. I know a lot of filmmakers have a problem with that, but I think some filmmakers are just a little too precious with their movies. But I don't know. That's just me. Again, I don't care because I want to watch a movie the way the directors intended it. That's me. But other people may not feel the same. And they already have the right to at home do it themselves. Why not have a service that just does it for them? Again, but when it comes down to it, I've got no dog in this fight, so I don't care. But Rob, what do you think about it?
Well, I believe that the individual has sovereign rights or should have sovereign rights, and they should be able to do whatever they want in terms of curating their viewing experience. And who am I to tell somebody they must watch nudity or they must watch violence or they must watch bad language? Because they don't. As long as they are not interfering with my ability to enjoy movies the way I want.
Oh, amen, brother.
I see no reason why. I had this on my own show. I don't know. Last year, a guy contacted me and said him and his wife did not like movies with bad language. They had strong religious beliefs, and they were torn and conflicted about certain movies, and I think I never would want to take away from someone's belief system, and they should absolutely be free to live their lives. And if they have certain deeply held religious beliefs or they don't want to see certain things in movies, they shouldn't have to see them if they don't want to. Now, I don't think it's a big deal in my life, but other people do. And as long as I am not restricted from seeing those things, I think people, whatever they can use to enhance the movie-going experience, and if they still want to be able to see those movies, I don't think if somebody edits out a little bit of violence or a little bit of language, if they find that objectionable, I think it's better that they can still see movies that they might otherwise enjoy if they know they can take those things out than if they don't watch the movies at all. So this might be a way people can still enjoy films that they wouldn't normally see if they know they can remove these small objectionable parts to them, and they still can get the enjoyment of the movie as a whole, which I think is great.
You know, Rob, one of the things I said yesterday is I never have understood the obsession people have with what other people do in the privacy of their own home.
Me neither.
And you bring up the VidAngel thing, and it's like, somebody's going to try to watch it without the nudity in it. Yeah. And it's like, why do you care how somebody watches a film in the privacy of their own home? And I think you bring up a key point. I think, like, as long as it's not in any way infringing on my right and ability to watch the movies with all the filth that I want, then why do I care? Why does anybody care? And I'll tell you what, as somebody who's done, I'm not a filmmaker, but as somebody who's done a little bit of filmmaking, if I would rather have somebody come up to me and say, hey, I got your movie, The Anniversary. We edited out the parts that, there's a little bit of nudity and some of the sexual references. We edited that out so we could watch it ourselves, but we got your movie. I'd be, thank you, sir. Thank you for buying my movie. I don't know. It's an interesting question that seems to raise a lot of ire in a lot of people. But again, I just don't care. I really don't care. All right. Sorry, we're falling behind here. Let's keep rolling here. Sam O'Neill writes, also a song that sticks with me from a movie is White Flag by Dodo from the Rugrats movie when I was a child. Hits me right in the feels. I don't remember that movie at all, Rob. Do you?
Yeah, I ran right out and saw it multiple times, John.
I know what the movie is. I don't recall even if I ever saw it. So it's not one. But hey, Sam, that's the thing though, dude. We got these music and movies that jump out and they instantly become associated with that film for us. And that's probably a good example. Again, I can't testify to that because I don't remember the film, but that's a good example. Sam O'Neill also writes, regarding the Funko question the other day, I have some Marvel ones that I look at every morning and before I go to the gym for a brutal 2 hours as motivation. So what he's referring to, Rob, is somebody wrote in the other day and said, why do people have obsession with Funko Pops? What's the deal with getting them? And obviously I have a bunch of them here. And what I said is, because to me, they inspire me. Like when I look at a Funko Pop, I pulled one out the other day, but I'm looking over there right now at my Deadpool one, right? I'm looking at the Deadpool one. It's cool. I keep it in the box, but it inspires me. It makes me think about Deadpool. It inspires creativity. It makes me motivated. And I just get inspired by looking at all these cool things. And that's what it is for me. What is it to you, Rob? Because you're a collectible guy. Like, what is it to you that really make them stand out for you?
Well, I feel the same way about Hot Toys. To me, an action figure, it represents the writer who came up with the concept in the first place, the director who made the movie, if it's from a movie, the artist or the costume designer. There's so much creativity involved in creating one character. And when you have a representation of that character, it's badass. But Funko Pops have something else that Hot Toys figures don't necessarily always have. And I'll tell you what that is. Funko Pops put a smile on your face. You can't not look at a Funko Pop, and even if you're not going to smile outwardly because you're just too curmudgeonly to do so, it's like it makes you a smiling on the inside kind of person. Because that's why I think Funko Pops are both cool and so cute, John, all at the same time. So how good is that?
And so damn cute. I love them. All right.
Have you been to the Funko Pop store in Hollywood yet?
Oh, dude, did you not see my pictures from the Funko Pop store in Hollywood?
Maybe I did. Maybe I missed them. I don't know. It
is a mecca. Have you been there?
No, everyone else.
Oh, dude, it's better than Disneyland.
Wow.
It's so great. It's so cool.
That's big coming from you to say something like that.
I tell you, man, I love, if you guys are in LA and get a chance to go there, you should absolutely go there. Okay, let's keep rolling on here. ZMG Ruler writes, which was worse, Rise of Skywalker or Birds of Prey? And the Harley Quinn movie, they were both disappointments to me. I'm going to say Rise of Skywalker disappointed me a little bit more, so I'm going to go with Rise of Skywalker. Pimp My DeLorean writes, halfway through Jojo Rabbit, I suddenly realized that the shoe scene was going to be an audibly said out loud, bro, no! Even though no one was around, the scene still caught me completely by surprise and absolutely broke my heart despite predicting it. Dude, it is amazing. There hasn't been a single scene in movie of all years that I talk about more, but that I also hear more people bring up and talk about on this show. The shoe scene, I said from the moment I saw this film, Pimp, that this is going to be a scene I will think about and remember for the rest of my movie loving days. All you'll ever have to say to me is shoe scene, and I'll know exactly what it is. Like if you're talking about Bone Tomahawk, you can mention, that scene, and you'll know what everybody's talking about.
Wow. Bone Tomahawk and Jojo Rabbit.
Weird comparison, I know. Weird comparison, but and you all know the scene we're talking about. But yeah, shoe scene to me, man, it's and nothing can prepare you. And I've had a lot of people write into me since then, Rob, going, I heard you talk about Jojo Rabbit and always talking about shoe scene. And even though I've heard you talk about it for so long, I was not prepared for it. And it's still a reaction we get from people. And one of the reasons why Jojo Rabbit was my personal favorite film of the year. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, "Hey, John, I thought I'd let you and viewers know they're playing A Quiet Place double feature at select theaters. I just used my A-list for $30 tickets to see it at AMC Dolby in Burbank a whole day earlier before it comes out. Highly recommend." It's funny you say that, Mandalorian, because I was just peeked over at one of the monitors I have over here, has my email open on it. And I saw that there's an email here right now from JC, who's one of the publicists that works with me over there, writing, "Paramount Pictures announces A Quiet Place double feature fan event." And it's like, ooh, I'm going to have to look into that. So Mandalorian, thank you, sir, for being so considerate to let people and myself know about that. It's one of the great things about the film fan community. We all get to contribute and pass on the good word. And I'm going to get myself those tickets. Alex Pitt writes, "Dave Bautista, I only want to be in good movies. Yeah, because My Spy looks like the masterpiece of 2020. I know. I mean, listen, Rob, you know this. I'm a big fan of Dave Bautista. Not only am I a fan, I like the guy. I think he's one of the most genuine, nice people in Hollywood that you're going to find. And for those of you who don't remember, when I did the 24-hour marathon for the Philippines, the first celebrity to say, I'll participate in that, was Dave Bautista. And he sent in this great pre-recorded message for the broadcast and all that kind of stuff. I've had the privilege of meeting with him several times. One of the most humble, nicest guys you're ever going to meet. That said, the comment he made about Fast and the Furious, when somebody asked him, "Hey, would you ever be in a Fast and Furious movie?" And, "I'd rather be in good movies." Remember, I'm a big Dave Bautista fan, and I like the guy very, very much. So I say this from a place of love. That was one of the most dumb fuck things he could ever possibly say in his career. Because I'm sorry, dude, I saw Stuber. And My Spy doesn't look any better. So how about, Dave, you get back to that attitude of, because I remember you remember that RZA directed movie, The Man with the Iron Fists? Remember that one? And Eli Roth produced that? Yeah. I remember I went and talked to him about that movie, and we were just sitting down talking, and he's like, he had this attitude of, "Man, I can't believe I get to be in movies. This is amazing." He's like, I'm not the great actor. And somebody like me, the fact that people would take chances on me and let me be in these movies, it's a dream, man. I'm just so grateful every day that I get to be in a movie. Hey, Dave, it's time to get back to that attitude. And this whole thing is, well, I've been in a Denis Villeneuve film now. I am an actor. And yeah, dude.
Well, he's now been in 2. Because he's in Dune as well. He plays the Beast Raban.
And I'm very much looking forward to seeing him in it. I'm super stoked that he's going to be in it. But, dude, we all saw Stuber. I take that back. Not a lot of people saw Stuber. But I did. So, yeah. So he should back off on that.
Well, to speak in his defense, I mean, a lot of people, I know because I get the brunt of it, they make fun of my deep, deep, deep love for the Fast and the Furious franchise. So I understand. I mean, I think he probably might have had a tongue firmly in a little bit of cheek there. But you're right. Why talk shit about one of the greatest franchises of all time?
There you go. There you go. It is the Citizen Kane of furious movies. The Citizen Kane of all movies that are furious.
John. Fast 5.
All right, Sam O'Neill writes, currently watching Logan again. God, it's good. Again, it was the best film of the year it came out. Best film of the year it came out. I absolutely love that film. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, last night my lady and I went to go see The Invisible Man, and I must say we enjoyed it. It hooked us right away from the jump, and despite how much they revealed in the trailers, I was still engaged. Mary Elizabeth Moss really puts on a show. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm not giving anything away by telling you guys this, but one of the great things about this, Rob, I love it when a movie doesn't waste any time in starting. When the movie starts, a lot of times films will take 10, 15 minutes to kind of ease into the film, you know? This movie starts when it starts. And that's one of the things I really, really enjoy about that, about this particular film. And she's right. Elizabeth Moss is great. You think the trailers give away a lot, and then you realize, you know what? No, it actually kept a lot of the good stuff back. And it's good. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, Russell. I'm glad you and your lady enjoyed it, because I enjoyed it a lot too. All right. Jashan Kadir writes, John, I love you, and I also love BTS. Oh, that's the band. I don't know why BTS has been coming up the last few days. There's 7 members, and 3 of them are rappers, and they write and produce. If you look it up, I'm sure you'll appreciate their hard work, just like yours, Filthy. Again, now they're a boy band. They're a boy band. They're a boy band. I'm sorry. This is as a musician, this is a long held belief of mine, Rob, and I don't know what you think about this.
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
Unless you play the guitar that you hear in the songs, unless you're actually composing the music and playing the music that we hear in it, unless you're doing all that, you don't get to call yourself a band. You ain't a band, all right? You're not. BTS, like most other bands, and boy, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. And by the way, one of my best friends, Sol, is obsessed with BTS. I know I have a lot of friends that love BTS, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to bash. I'm just saying, though, that like most other boy bands in North America, they are a corporately produced, corporately cast and assembled individual pieces based on formulas that they know audiences will respond to. These aren't a bunch of lifelong friends who grew up together and started making music together. These are guys who a corporation and corporate heads decide, okay, we're going to put this band together. Let's go and start picking our players to put in this singing group because we know the formula. And again, this isn't bashing on K-pop or anything. This is what the North American music things has been doing forever. The North American audience has been doing this forever. And it's just as bad. But anyway. But hey, they make my wife listens to BTS, Rob. My wife listens to BTS. So I'm not sitting here to bash on BTS. I'm just saying, hey guys, I'm sorry. I hate to be the one to pull back the curtain, but this is a corporately produced machine that was very specifically put together based on certain criteria and formula because they know what to elicit certain responses from audiences. But then again, Rob, suppose you could say the same of movies. I suppose you could say the same of movies. So who are we to judge? Anyway, okay, next up. And hey, listen, I'd be lying if I didn't say some of their music made me tap my toes. I saw their Saturday Night Live performance. That was pretty good. These are talented young men. They're talented. I ain't saying they're not. I ain't saying they're not talented. They are talented. They are talented. Just not my thing. That's all. That's it. Just not my thing. All right. Jashan Kadir writes. Oh, no, that was Jashan. Jashan also writes, I love you and Robert Meyer Burnett. Where's Cody? Best movie, worst movie, helps me survive LA traffic. I'll tell you, so the last 2 episodes that we put up of Best Movie, Worst Movie, our podcast, which, by the way, you can go and find it on your podcast app of choice. Just look for Best Movie, Worst Movie. So, of course, Cody Miller is normally on that. The last couple of weeks, we've been super thrilled to have our mutual friend Cliff Stevenson on, and he was great on it. I honestly didn't even bother trying to get a hold of Cody. And I decided not even to put it on, because here's what would have happened. I would have reached out to Cody, and Cody, being the type of guy he is, would have smiled and said, yeah, let's record the next episodes, even though he has no time to do so. Right. He is prepping for the upcoming Olympics. And he's got the Olympic trials coming up here pretty quick. And he's going to go off and win more medals. And I just knew that if I even brought it up with him, he would, because he is who he is, he would make it sound like, yeah, no problem. And he'd be taking time out of his schedule when he should be doing something else. So I didn't even talk to him about it. I said, I'm just going to leave him alone. I'm not going to text him. I'm not going to call him. I'm going to leave him alone. And for the next couple of weeks, we're going to get somebody to sit in for him so we can let him focus on doing what he does, which is being an Olympian. But he'll be back. Make no mistake, Cody Miller will be back. Because Rob and I both really dig Cody an awful lot. He's such a great guy.
He is a great guy.
Oh, super, super, super great guy. Okay, last couple of questions here, guys. Where are we at here? Ovidu writes, I would be okay with Batman Beyond only if they have the same take as Logan. Have 5 to 6 same Batman movies. Have 5 to 6 same Batman movies, and if they're good, finish it the same way. Well, here's the problem with that, though, Ovidu, is that then it's not Batman Beyond at all. What you're really talking about, if you want to give Batman the Logan treatment, Rob, tell me if you think this is a good analogy. If you want to give Batman the Logan treatment, that's called The Dark Knight Returns. Like, isn't that right? It's really not Batman Beyond. If you want to do the Logan thing, then what you're really doing is The Dark Knight Returns, which they did in animated form, and they did a really good job in animated form. But I would love to see a Dark Knight Returns live action with an old, grizzled, in his 60s, huge Batman coming out of retirement to kick ass. I'd be down for it, Rob. What kind of analogy would you use for that?
I think that's pretty good. I mean, the thing about Batman Beyond is, yeah, you have an older Bruce Wayne, but Terry McGinnis, the new character, is starting that fight anew. It's if anything, it's more about rebirth. And I do think that The Dark Knight Returns is far more along the lines of Logan. But even The Dark Knight Returns is about Batman coming back into the fold and to fight crime again. Whereas Logan is really about the end of a man's life who's lived for over a century. You know, he's wary, he's held the weight of the world on his shoulders, and it's about the end. But, I don't know. I mean, I think you could do a Dark Knight Returns and make it that way if you wanted to. I really like the third Dark Knight, the Master Race comic that Brian Azzarello and Frank Miller did. I thought that was terrific, and it had more of a Logan vibe to it, but it's part of the same thing. But I think you're right. I mean, the Dark Knight Returns is much more along the lines of Logan.
All right, guys, and with that, at the aforementioned documentary, I have some editors coming over here today that we're going to be working on that. So we actually have to cut today's show a little bit short. I've got to get ready for that. So thank you to everybody, and listen, for everybody else who still had outstanding questions, from Swim, John Argote, Anthony C., KW Garrett, Tristan, all the way up, and everybody who sent in questions. Do not worry. Your questions are going to get answered in a companion video this weekend. You sent them in. They're going to get answered properly, so keep your eyes open for that. It might even be Robert Meyer Burnett answering them. I haven't asked him yet, but we'll have to wait and see.
I'll do it.
All right, he'll do it. Your questions are going to get answered, guys. So listen, guys, thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your Friday. And thanks for being a part of the film fan community. And a special thank you to all of you guys who did send in questions, because you did two things. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. And number two, you supported the channel while you're doing it. And all of us here, thank you very much for that. In the meantime, we got to thank Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett for being here. Robert, my friend, thanks so much for shining your glorious light on our darkness. Where can people in the meantime find you and your stuff online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or you can always find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, the show about something, John.
It's always good to have you, and it's always great to have you guys here, of course. That will do it for us for now, guys. May you have a fabulous weekend filled with glorious triumph and victory, and get you all prepared for another kick-ass week next week. That will do it for us for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.